the best way to be making decisions. This is going to be a video focused on the decision-making process and how to come to a very specific way for you individually to make your own decisions, which will allow you to naturally move through life towards the things that you actually want. And it all comes down to this idea right here, creating the hierarchy of values that you have in your life. Of course, this is something that can change. This is something that will naturally change and evolve as you go through your life. But more importantly, it is very, 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 very imperative right now. And I quite literally mean right fucking now. If this is you and this is an issue that you struggle with, to write down on your phone, on a piece of paper, on your computer, wherever the fuck, doesn't matter. Get it down. Get it fucking down. Write down your hierarchy of values and at least have 5, preferably probably like 10 to 15, maybe even 20, probably more is better. But they need to be ranked in order, and you will naturally see this evolve over time. And of course, the first time that you do it, it's going to be shitty and it's probably going to be revised and it's probably going to change. That's fine, but it won't go anywhere. It won't get any better if you don't take the first steps that actually improve it, which is starting this process. So here's how it works. Whenever you are in a decision, whenever you are making a decision, perhaps something that is, could be something that's relatively small, could be something that is, potentially life-changing. Maybe it's like, where do you want to live, for example? Well, in that case, you want to be choosing from your own personally defined hierarchy of needs. It could be a situation where, like I just said, maybe you're trying to choose a city to live in. Maybe, you and your girlfriend, you and your significant other are looking at moving out a few different places and you don't really know how to decide. If you can plot down your hierarchy of values, you will naturally gravitate towards the side that lines up with your values the most. And this is, like I said, something that is going to be personal. So I will share my sort of personal one as well, and this is going to change over time. But for myself, the first most important value in my life is actually this. It's actually presence of mind and being in the moment, being mindful. And that's very, 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 very important to me because I realize that everything else I've come to the realization myself, this could change as well over time, that everything in my life is based upon that basic presupposition. If that is in line, naturally things should follow. The second value is actually telling the truth. So whenever I'm in a decision and, it's like, I don't know, maybe like maybe like the IRS has contacted me or something. And they say, hey, what's this about over here? I'm not going to fucking lie. I'm just going to trust that telling them the truth is the right thing to do because I've come to the conclusion over time within my life that telling the truth is absolutely necessary because one means that you don't need to remember the past. So you don't need to, when you lie, you actually have to remember the lie. You just have to remember, the truth, which is a lot easier to do. And then more importantly, when telling the truth, you can trust in the fact that it might not always work out for you. Could be that you actually have done wrong, but at least telling the truth is the antidote towards making the steps in the right direction that can translate into positive progress over time in the future. That is the key right there. 3 is fitness. I think that is very important for myself. To prioritize my actual, health, both mentally and physically. Mentally kind of, encompasses the first 2 values right there. Physically, obviously going to be more so in line with like going to the gym, for example, maintaining maybe a regular yoga practice for some people. That's not necessarily me. For my mind, meditation's a big one as well. But essentially that is something that I always trust in. So it is imperative because I understand that if I do not satisfy my innate biological needs to have physical exertion, then I'm probably not going to be operating at the optimal, mindset to begin with. And if I'm not doing that, then I can't really expect the best results. And well, when you're in a profession where you need to be at the top of your game pretty much all the time, anything that takes away from that is not good. So fitness, absolutely imperative, as it's going to provide more more value than just, getting yourself into shape perhaps. And those are just the first 3. And we could go on and on and on, but you kind of get the idea from there. So whenever I'm going through a decision, I'm filtering it through that. Does this help with is this relevant to my health? Does it add to it or take away from it? What about my current awareness? Is that adding to it or taking away from it? That sort of a thing. And naturally you will come to your own ideal conclusions. And like I said, don't freak out if you don't exactly know or don't have like a very profound or deep value set to be making right off the get-go. You're not going to if you've never done something like this before. It will come over time. Just trust in that process. And if you can start right now, then you'll get there sooner. And more importantly, every time that you come to a decision in your life, one of those quantum moments where you enter in one scenario or another, which can veer your life off into completely different paths, at least you can have a very clear set of what you should be choosing. You will know what the right decision is, even if you're feeling very split. You'll always know, because when there is a hierarchy of values, there's going to be a clear winner. There's going to be something that is going to be better than the other one, and if you value it higher, that's the one to go with. If you value something lower, but you feel a lot more strongly about that, perhaps that could be another way as well. Maybe it's not even relevant to begin with. But this really, really comes in handy when you're at those critical junctures in life. And the more that you practice this, the more that you will naturally not second guess yourself during these times, because a lot of the times when we do come into these very difficult situations, decisions to be made, we make it much more difficult for ourselves than what it needs to be. And what I mean by that is that we will stress over it. We will think about it too much. And realistically, if you know your hierarchy of values, the decision is right there, right in front of your face. And there's really no thinking about it other than that. Anything that is any sort of thought processes that are outside of that hierarchy of value is just complicating the fact and making it worse for yourself when you don't need to do that. And that is another thing, that goes into the category of, well, it'd be better for our lives if we just do things that don't make it worse, like, extra anxiety, extra worrying, shit like that. And with this sort of a process, at least you can have a means of eliminating that, because you've already predefined and know what you should be going towards. You could also refer to this as like a true north principle. There's always a set of values that you prioritize over other things. And that decision-making matrix is always going to be filtered through that. And so as you update that, as your life goes on, you can always trust that the decisions that you made that are based off of that criteria are going to lead you towards that destination that you're going for over time. So here's what I would leave you with right here, a very short video. Meditate on what you want. Meditate on your hierarchy of values. Meditate on what it would feel like to apply those values, and then start to write down and really spend some time doing this. Spend at least 20, 30 minutes like meditating on this and then writing it down perhaps, and do this maybe every morning or every night, for like a year or two, and see how that changes. See how that changes, because it will naturally change as you go through more experiences in your life. You'll be like, oh, you know what? Actually, don't really care about, going to the gym is not that important. Maybe you're at a situation where or actually maybe the opposite situation. Maybe it's your birthday or something like that. And because it's your birthday, people usually just want to go out and party. And maybe that could be right for you if that is one of your values. Maybe one of your values is having fun with your friends. Completely fine, completely relevant. For myself, not so much. I value my health more than that. And so when it's my birthday, there's no decision-making process there. I just go to the gym because that's what I value, and I like that. And I will still work, and I'll still be creating a video, for my trading channel, and perhaps my gaming channel as well, because that's what I enjoy. Those are built into my hierarchy of values, and it's more important to me to live up to that over time, because I know that leads me to where I want to go, and it reduces the anxiety around the decision-making process, which in turn just makes everything worse than it needs to be and complicates things to begin with. And when we've really thought about these things and plotted them down and gone through it over time, we'll start to really naturally trust in that whole process, and it becomes even better and more slick and more refined, over the course of a year, over a course of 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and so on and so forth. It only gets better with more practice, and you'll be able to be that sort of person who, in a very difficult situation, you can be that sort of a person who others can rely upon, because you will be able to see things clearly, even if the situation is difficult. Yes, there is going to be a time, to have grievance and whatnot. There is going to be a time to, to doubt yourself and everything, but at least you won't do it more in relationship to other people, because you will have already defined that set of values for yourself, and you will know what is right for yourself, and you will also trust in the process for yourself, that even if your hierarchy of values is not correct, if you just follow it and tell yourself the truth, then you will naturally self-correct over time. And that is the more critical point of this video, because trusting in that process is all you need to do. And yes, mistakes will happen. Yes, you will come to some situations where you find that that is not what you wanted. Maybe you valued something more high than what it needed to be. For myself, in college, for example, I really valued, or I thought that I valued, having a very active social life, like going out and partying all the time. And I did that for the first couple of years of my college life. That's pretty much all I did. It was pretty fun. Don't get me wrong. But I always felt an emptiness there. And because I was always prioritizing that, it was coming at the expense of other things in my life. And at that point in my life, I started to really get interested in going to the gym. I really wanted to build myself up that way. That was a big priority for myself, something that I always had been working out, but never really prioritized. And I started to read a lot more about it. And I realized that, hey, if I actually want to get somewhere with this, if I actually want to do something with this, then I'm going to have to put a lot more effort into it. And it's probably going to come at the expense of having a late night out. Because if you have a late night out, there's no way that you're going to have a good gym session. If you don't sleep well, then good fucking luck growing any muscle. And it's going to be very difficult to get the right nutrition, especially if you're drinking beer or alcohol all night. It's going to be quite calorific, which means that they have to mediate it some way that way as well, and it probably hampers muscle growth at the same time. Doing drugs, not all that helpful as well. Interfering with the same sort of processes. And so I came to the conclusion very easily, actually, when I thought about it. When I actually thought about it and put it down on paper, it's like, okay, gym is number 3, or actually at that point it was more like number 1 in college. After I kind of thought about it, and then partying's more like maybe at number 10. It's cool, but I want this more. This is what I want actually more, and I know that in a few years' time I will be a lot more happy that I did this rather than doing that, whatever that other activity is that you don't really feel that in alignment with. And so I would strongly suggest, if you have not done this before, do it today. Quite literally, maybe even do it right now. Sit down there, meditate, just check out what pops into your mind, and then think about, a situation, some sort of decision that you need to be making, and then apply what sort of filter you want to be making towards that. What do you want the most? What do you want second most? What do you want third most? And as you come through that hierarchy, the decisions will be a lot more easy, and you'll suffer a lot less anxiety on top of that. It's not to say that you won't suffer any anxiety at all, of course not, but at least you'll suffer less than what you would have if you did not do that process, which will give you a leg up on others when the push comes to shove and a difficult situation arises. With that said, I'll leave you right there. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.